chainers, wherever you are in the world. This is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I'm the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the Blended podcast, founder of the Blended Pledge and the Secret Society of Supply Chain. And we've got a great episode for you. That's right. We're going to be talking about ice cream, stolen eggs, and a little bit about supply chain chaos with Phillip from CXT Software. And he's going to be coming up on stage in just a minute so we can get to know him. He's going to give us a market update, and then we're going to get into all of those crazy topics. But before I let you know what's happening at Let's Talk Supply Chain, head over to secretsocietyofsupplychain.com. We've got a membership for everyone in supply chain, women in supply chain, marketing professionals in supply chain, and supply chain professionals as a whole. So head over there, check it out. Check out our membership groups, and I hope to see you in the community. All right, let's get started with our brand new episode. So episode 454, and it is about uncovering hidden inefficiencies and reveal your true cost to serve with 910 advisors. Now, this one was a lot of fun. We talked, and I learned a ton about cost to serve. And to be honest with you, since I recorded this episode, I've actually been thinking about this whole cost to serve concept in my own business and how we are working with clients and which clients and what that looks like. So I highly recommend you go and check this out because we talk about the true cost to serve, not only in your organization, but also in supply chain as a whole. So wherever you check out the podcast, you can go to letstalksupplychain.com, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. We are there, and go and check that out. Next, we've got some live events. So Eric Johnson is going live Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern for TPM Today, navigating the turbulent waters of trade tariffs in footwear. That's a big word. It was Tariff Tuesday last Tuesday when we were at TPM, and everybody was talking about tariffs. So I'm sure you don't want to miss this one. Go ahead and click the attend button. It's not there because I'm already attending, but click the attend button. And even if you can't attend live, we will send you the recording. Next week, March 20th at 1 p.m. Eastern, I hope you're going to be joining me because I'm going to be talking to Lineage Logistics and OptiLogic about optimizing your freight strategy for faster, smarter, profitable moves. And this is going to be a great discussion and something very timely for what people are thinking about when they are designing their supply chains. And we're going to be talking about Lineage and their partnership with OptiLogic and so much more. Again, click the attend button. I'll send you the link. Even if you can't attend live. Next, we put together a checklist. So if you are looking at Mexico, US, and the auto industry, we put a checklist together to evaluate your company's readiness and identify key areas of improvement. So go and check that out. It's really extensive. We did a ton of research on this. We've got some sources on it as well. Go check it out. We hope that it's useful. Would love to hear some of your feedback on it as well. And then last week, I was live at TPM in Long Beach, California. Now, this is day one, and I had the opportunity. They were celebrating their 25th anniversary, and I got the opportunity to sit down with John and Peter and Mario to talk about the history, the 25-year history of TPM, where it started, what it looked like. And John was actually one of the first people on stage at TPM. Next, I've got day two, and I had a chance to sit down with a couple of different people within the industry to talk about IPOs and what's happening and so much more. So go and check that out because we've got that on YouTube for you. And last but not least, in-person events, April 24th through 25th. I'm going to be in New Orleans with the team at JOC for Break Bulk and Project Cargo. And then May 21st, 22nd in Nashville for Home Delivery World. All right. So many great things happening in supply chain. Now it's time to bring up Phillip. Phillip, how you doing?
Good, Sarah. Good to have you, and thanks for having me with you today.
Yeah, so excited. You are dialing in all the way from Phoenix, Arizona. So what's it like in Phoenix today?
Yeah, well, today it's beautiful and sunny. We actually got rain for the first time all year about 2 days ago. So you would
Wow.
think that the earth had stopped, with all of the amazing water on the streets. But yeah, no, it's beautiful here. We're super, super blessed to have been in Phoenix since 1991.
Wow. So I flew into Phoenix and then drove to Sedona. It wasn't last year, I think it was the year before. And that was quite the drive. You are fast drivers over in Arizona. Like that speed limit kind of scared me a little, not gonna lie.
They originally set all the speed limits when there was nobody here, and all of a sudden everybody showed up, and there you go. They just never reset the mark for that.
But yeah, it was a little scary. I think I was in the slow lane the whole time. Not that I'm, a slow driver, but those were fast speed limits. Anyways, for anybody who is tuning in today, we want to hear from you. So put in the comments where you're tuning in from. We'd love to give you a shout out. If you have any questions throughout the show, we're going to definitely try to get to those. So make sure you put all of that in the comments. And if you're just having a good time, use the emoji button and send us some fire emojis. Would love to hear from you. So, Philip, for anybody who doesn't know you, why don't you tell us who you are and what you do, and a little bit
Yeah,
about CXT?
sure, Sarah, you got it. Yeah, so Phillip Lechter, and I've been in business building for numerous years, and add to that to the supply chain side of the fence. And it's always been about how do you improve and better serve your consumers and your customers in a meaningful way. And so at CXT Software, we are really dedicated to that final mile experience. And so we are the transportation management solution, or TMS solution, for couriers, carriers, and even more specifically into the medical space, where there's a significant amount of final mile opportunity to serve, especially as we're seeing this market go to a direct to patient, a D2P type environment. You're starting to see the supply chain having to shift from what used to be really a centralized hub model where everybody would go to a hospital to be served for everything. And now it's transforming. And so it's a very exciting time to be in this supply chain space.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking all about, I think everything, you touched on everything we're going to be talking about today, because we're
Uh-oh.
going to be talking about like Final Mile and Unilever and what they're focusing on. We're going to be talking about healthcare and cybersecurity. And then we're going to end everything off with a little, kind of a fun story, kind of not a fun story for those that were involved though.
Yeah.
100,000 eggs being stolen. But before we do that, let's get to our poll of the week. So we ask everybody a question every single Wednesday morning across the Let's Talk Supply Chain, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So the question was, how happy are you with your current TMS? Now we had 28 votes, which I'm surprised at. And I think it's only because people just didn't want to answer this question and be, assigned to it. So I think that's probably why. But out of the 28 votes, 36% of you said neutral, 32% of you said unsatisfied. That is a big number. 25%
Mhm.
said satisfied, and other, please comment below. That was 7%. Jonathan said choosing the right TMS is critical for shippers looking to improve, but not all systems are built the same. And Garrett said, y'all in that neutral and lower category are going to be stoked when you see what's on the market. All right. So talk to me about this particular poll. What did you think about it? Was this surprising? What are you hearing?
Yeah, actually, it's not surprising, and I think that's the opportunity in the space that we have today. When TMS has really started, and in fact, if we even just a history lesson on CXT Software, when we started 25 years ago, yeah, everything was on premise, right? We weren't even in the cloud, and made the transition to the cloud, and
Right.
and today technology is moving so quickly. And as you think about how quickly it's moving, the challenge that we face so often is that we're just not getting those efficiencies deeper and deeper and deeper into that TMS space. And that's what we're excited about in our organization, and culturally, about how do we start to bring that together. But if you poll, like you said, when you poll, you're going to get that whole list of accomplishments across that ether of people where they're like, I'm just not sure that I'm getting everything that I need. The other challenge is there's so much available in a TMS solution that oftentimes, we've seen clients that have gotten really fixated in what they do within it, and they don't
Right.
use all the capacity and capability that's available to them. That's
Mhm.
another side of that there's a great opportunity for education in this space as well.
There absolutely is. And I also wonder, like, there's a lot of different options on the market as far as TMSs. And I wonder if sometimes it's like paralysis, right? Because we just don't know where to turn and how to research what's out there. I know for our Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast, we've got a lot of people that come there to see what solutions are on the market so that they can determine which ones are right for them. But I do know a lot of people just get sort of paralyzed by, the options that are out there and get a little bit overwhelmed. What would you suggest for somebody in that
Yeah,
situation?
and you're right, Sarah. And the hardest part is that everybody sounds the same, right?
Right.
Like if you like, what do you do? Well, I'm a TMS solution, and this is how it works. And I think that's one of the bigger challenges. And I think the most important thing when evaluating a TMS solution is being really articulate with your workflow and
Mm,
having a TMS solution show you how your workflow fits into their environment.
yeah.
And that becomes way different than just kind of the nice bells and whistles. And the challenge with most bells and whistles in this environment today is that they are often very skinny. So they're going to be able to serve one very niched experience,
Right.
not the whole ether that as a supply chain we need to serve, our entire clients who have different needs at different times.
Absolutely. So let's get into the market update because this is the time of the episode that I get to find out from you. Like, you're having lots of conversations with a lot of different people in the industry. You're talking to customers, you're talking to partners and vendors. What does it look like for them right now? Like, what is top of mind? What are people asking about? What are they concerned about?
Yeah, there's a couple things that are really top of mind to me in today's environment, especially. There's a lot of conversation around security
Hmm.
and how with all of the cybersecurity threats and the challenges in that environment, how do we keep that alive, and with that is a lot of visibility issues. Where even if you just think about the conversation, where is my package?
Yeah.
There's a tremendous amount of data that's behind that, assuming that the breadcrumb trail is connected, within those services. But then the other part, obviously, the climate today of tariffs and talking through that, where we're seeing that is actually trickling down, especially to couriers, is around drivers who are concerned and are not sure, and so they're becoming harder and harder to find, keep, and keep excited in
Right.
the space. And so sometimes it's some of these things actually kind of trickle down to the other side of the fence, where you would think that maybe it was more of a global problem at the top, but it actually becomes more of the talking point in other aspects of the business, and the drivers in the last mile space are the core function of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think technology plays into that as well. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about that. But you're right. Security is top of mind across the industry. Obviously, keeping frontline workers safe. And it's not just about the product being safe and secure. We also want to make sure that those who are transporting the product, et cetera, are also safe and secure. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit later with our last article when it comes to those eggs. But I want to get into our first article about AI. Yes, we
Mm.
are talking about AI and ML. Once again, this is a topic that I don't think is going anywhere. But I chose this particular article for this conversation because CXT is in the final mile, and Unilever was on stage at Manifest talking about their final mile and how they're using AI and ML, but they also talked about some of the challenges that they're having as well. So, one of the ways, or a couple of the ways that they're using AI, is weather data to develop accurate forecasts and limit some of the waste that they have when they are transporting their ice cream. Now, they focused on their ice cream product, and obviously, that is something that could melt in transit if we don't have the right equipment and we're monitoring it on a regular basis. They also said that they're using AI for real-time inventory updates. Now, Philip, what do you think of this particular article? What stood out for you? Talk to us a little bit about that, and then I'll go into a few more things that stood out for me.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of things that really stood out to me, and I love their innovation. All right, I think that's really important to recognize how they are looking at this from an effective point of view of let me bring AI into areas that I can meaningfully impact. Because I think that's where, kind of that whole AI ML conversation it's a little off the rails at the moment, right? Because
Okay.
too often it's
Off the rails. Tell me about that. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I really like that.
it's a lot of they're two letters, but they're really big words. And I think, where you start to see that in this conversation is that, gosh, people are struggling to find ways to really make it efficient and effective and cost, and keep the costs down. And in fact, that's really what we're seeing. And we're, with our clients, they're actually starting to really test this in areas where the costs are significantly higher than ice cream. And so, when you look in the medical space and there are certain prescriptions that are extremely costly, not to mention things like organs or things of that nature where they have to keep it at a certain temperature for a certain period of time, and there's a really tight time window. And we've seen a lot of testing going on around that, where we're able to bring in the certain types of packages, having it all temperature check, being a temperature via GPS across its entire life cycle from A to B. And I think that's only a matter of time for that to become a little bit more applicable to ice cream, right? Where the margins are low, and we're going to start to see that shift more meaningfully. But I love the way they're thinking, and they're thinking the right way, which is how do I handle my pain points with AI? The other thing that came to mind too was the dark warehouses that was in there, where they're like, look, I mean, we struggle in finding people that want to go spend 8 hours in a cooler pulling ice cream. So let's actually bring the technology in to allow us to do that.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing they said they were using AI and ML for is demand planning. The two
Mm-hmm.
areas that they said that they were struggling with is improving visibility to final mile. They're having a hard time finding cost-effective tracking. They were saying they used the example of the fact that if they were shipping diamonds, the
Yeah.
cost of the tracking device makes sense. But because they're shipping ice cream, and like you said, the margins are so low, the tracking devices at this particular moment, they're not saying in the future, but at this particular moment, does cost a little bit more than they could actually absorb in the margins, because they're not just selling to retail locations, like large retail locations. They actually mentioned that they're selling to mom and pop stores as well. And so they
Mhm.
have to keep the margins fairly tight. The other thing they said was real-time monitoring of all their trucks and carriers. So they're not necessarily asset based. And so they're using a variety of different carriers, owner operators, and trucks to move the product around the country, and to have them all also invest in tracking devices too has been tricky to be able to put it across the board. So I thought those were two really interesting. I don't know if you have some final thoughts on those two pieces.
I think you're right on, and I love the conversation about the asset base versus IC model. And
Mhm.
that IC model, you really have to rely on some sort of technology that they have, and probably the most reliable at this point would be their cell phones. Almost every
Mhm.
driver out there has some sort of a cell phone
Oh,
device that's with them, and
yeah.
being able to utilize that. The challenge with that is obviously when it gets to the package level. So you can
Yeah.
track the driver, where the driver goes, and even where the vehicle goes. But when you get deeper into that, it's hard. It
Yeah.
is. It's a
Absolutely.
great problem that I look forward to the industry solving.
Yes, me too. Well, I want to say hi to Sam over on my personal LinkedIn. Thanks so much for joining us today. Remember, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you're just enjoying the conversation, give me a fire emoji in the comments or ask your question. All right, we're getting to our second article, and I want to say congratulations, because you recently achieved SOC 2 compliance, which has to do with cybersecurity. Now, cybersecurity has been at the top of the I don't know, top 5, top 10 trends and things to look out for and think about in supply chain over the last couple of years. And I don't think it's going anywhere. One of the stats that you provided in this particular article, 93% of healthcare has large scale breaches, or there's 93% large scale breaches. And I think that was over a 4-year period. 93% is a really scary number. So congratulations. Talk to us about the SOC2 compliance. What does it mean? Why is it important? And then we'll go from there.
Sarah, thank you. And in the cloud environment, the idea of SOC2 is often is around facility, and it was really important for us to find a way to be at the top of the heap when it comes to TMS solutions in the cloud environment, where you could actually bring that SOC 2 compliance to life. And for our clients, it was really critical. So even if you were talking about a courier service, some of their clients are going to be on that medical side or healthcare side, and maybe not all, but you're seeing that the majority of our clients are living in that space, whether it's direct to a hospital and actually doing the hospital's work, or a courier that they've outsourced, right? So they'll insource or outsource, and this is where that SOC 2 compliance for us becomes mission critical. And quite frankly, I would expect that all TMS solutions should have it. But the process isn't easy. And the process, especially in an environment where we are, which is where not only are we a cloud-based solution, but we're a fully remote, organization. And that really set up an opportunity for us to have to get really, really smart, really, really focused, and really, really committed to achieving this compliance.
Yeah, and I don't think it's just healthcare. I think we're, excuse me, looking at this as supply chain as a whole. It's one thing to be able to trust the data that we're receiving and, trust the outcomes and the solutions that it kind of, leans us towards. It's another for us to be able to trust our partners in collaboration when we're looking about sharing data. It's something that has been coming up a lot for me in supply chain, and the fact that we are not sharing data. We are not collaborating around data. We're not sharing enough data. And I think part of that problem is that we don't necessarily trust that the data is secure. And so this is really fascinating for me, because I think it's really important for those technology partners like a CXT is thinking 4 steps ahead of everybody else and making sure that what they're offering to their customers is a trusted way of being able to collaborate with data and ask for their data as well, because you're asking for data for the technology to be able to work in their favor to provide them with the trusted outcomes. And so I think this is really, really important, and we need increased security, and we need technology companies. And I think we need supply chain professionals when they're looking for technologies to ask this question.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important, especially, 93% in healthcare. In supply chain, I think it's probably around the same number. And we're talking about large dollar amounts. Like and it makes a huge impact to a company. A company could close their doors because of a cyber threat too.
Yeah, the penalties, the lack of trust and the loss of trust is oftentimes beyond recovery.
Yeah, and it goes a really long way if you can trust your technology provider with your data, and that they've actually done the necessary work to make sure that you can trust them with the data. So some food for thought when you're looking at technology and you're looking at technology partners. This is definitely a question that I think you all should ask. All right, let's get to our last article. Now, this is not really, okay, I keep saying it's a fun one, but it's not fun for the people involved, okay? And I highly recommend you go and check this out. This article was actually given to me by somebody on LinkedIn. They mentioned it in one of my comments, and I asked them for the article so that we could feature it on Thoughts and Coffee. So if you guys come across any interesting articles that are supply chain adjacent or supply chain, please let me know. I'd love to see them because we definitely want to talk about them on upcoming episodes. So what happened was 100,000 eggs were stolen from a trailer in Pennsylvania. Now, we might be tired of hearing about eggs, right? Because eggs seem to be getting their moment right now. There's a whole bunch of disruption and challenges around eggs. The egg prices are going up. It was a really big part of what happened in November and around the new administration. But this also goes to the need for security. Cybersecurity, maybe not, but security of trailers, security of the transportation, security of the drivers. Now, these 100,000 eggs actually have a value of $40,000. And it's things like this that actually increase the price of the product. And I'm going to give you an example because you might think this is not really going to affect me except for when I go to the grocery store and I buy a carton of eggs. Well, if you go to Waffle House, I'd like to hear from any of you. If you go to Waffle House, let me know in the comments because I know it's a popular destination for a lot of people. Their price per egg is going up 50 cents per egg, because of not only this, but what's happening in the egg industry. So, Philip, what did you think about this? Tie this back to Final Mile, because also there's tons of disruptions when it comes to things like this. And obviously, security needs to be top of mind, whether it's cyber or security of trailers.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, security needs to be top of mind. And it's interesting, too, because back to the Waffle House, I love to go to Waffle House, but I wouldn't think of paying a premium there, right? And that's a pretty big hit. Yeah, as you look at this, there really needs to be a security strategy in all things that you do. Now, could you have predicted 2 years ago that 100,000 eggs being stolen would be A, something that would be worthy of doing, and B, something that would make the news? Probably not. But we're going to find whatever that is, whether whatever that conversation is that creates kind of that level of frenzy from the marketplace. But I would say from a supply chain and a final mile, I think the opportunity is really to be smart, be aligned in what you're trying to do, and protect your people, and those are the things that really become opportunistic in this. And the more, we can't, obviously you're not going to have high-end live tracking on every carton of eggs, but what you can do is make sure that you have strategies in place and some standard operating procedures that can minimize the impact of something like that.
Yeah, it's so true. It goes back to the ice cream example. You're right. We're not going to necessarily at this moment put tracking devices on every single carton of eggs. And also, who knew that eggs would be the next commodity, the next hot commodity off of a truck? I mean, you make a really good point. First of all, how did they know that there was this many eggs on a truck? And second of all, who's having that conversation? Because most of the time you think it's electronics, it's, high-end valuable goods. And now it's coming down to something as everyday as eggs, and it's really going to affect the everyday consumer. Now, security is much needed, not only on a trailer, but also where you are securing that trailer as well. We did have an episode 451, talking about this particular conversation around security, trailers, secure space, all that kind of stuff. So go and check that episode out. But yeah, it's a really interesting story. Somebody said, actually, so were the eggs recovered? I think it's still ongoing. I didn't actually look at an article that was adjacent to this, or closer to this date and us going live today. So I actually don't know if they were recovered. And I don't know much more of the story, but I am going to have to go and see if I can find that out for you and add that into the comments, either on the Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page or on my personal LinkedIn page as well. Well, that's it for us today. Philip, thank you so much for coming on and sharing what CXT is doing, talking about Final Mile. Congratulations on the SOC2. And for everybody who joined us today, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks, Sarah.